All right, I think we can go ahead and get started. Hi, everybody. Just to remind you, my name is Dr. Michael Walls. I'm the national president of AMSA, the American Medical Student Association. And today we are very excited to hear from Ms. Liz Winstead, who I'll get to in a second. But I just wanted to run through some of AMSA's programming real quick. So this talk is in association with AMSA's Reproductive Health Project. We're in our third year. We've helped almost over 2,000 medical students and pre-medical students with over 125 membership pairs. And so this is, of course, in association with that. So if anyone is interested in getting further involved and hearing from more awesome people like Liz, definitely check out our website at amsa.org/RHP for Reproductive Health Project. I also wanted to thank, if my slides will go, thank all of our partners who have been helping us for a long time in the fight for increase in abortion access to everyone, because at AMSA, and I'm sure all of these organizations believe that abortion is a human right. And so we wanted to thank all of them, the READY program, Conway, National Advocates for Pregnant Women, Indigenous Women Rising, All Above All, the Abortion Library. All of these groups have been essential in helping us to educate future medical students on abortion practices and providing abortions and advocating for our patients who need abortions. And then here are a few more, including ACOG, READY, Reproductive Health Access Project, Planned Parenthood, Med Students for Choice. So this is long been an important issue for AMSA, and we're so excited to partner with all of these amazing organizations. But today we're here to hear from Liz Winstead. Liz is the co-creator of The Daily Show and is one of the top political satirists, I don't know if I said that right, working today as co-creator and head writer of Comedy Central's The Daily Show. She forever changed the way people get their news, and in 2004, she also co-founded Air America Radio while also co-hosting Unfiltered every morning with a Rachel Maddow and hip-hop legend Chuck D. Her book of essays, Liz Free or Die, was published by Riverhead Books in 2012. The New York Times called it searching and lively and moving. Ms. Winstead writes about a feel for the sound of words. Liz also writes satirical commentary for The Guardian, The Wall Street Journal, and The Huffington Post. Liz is a prominent abortion rights activist and one of the founders of Abortion Access Front, formerly Lady Parts Justice League, a team of comedians, writers, and producers that use humor to destigmatize abortion and expose the extremist anti-choice forces working to destroy access to reproductive rights in all 50 states. In her work with Abortion AF, Winstead has taken her satirical brilliance one step further, combining it with her passion for reproductive rights to expose anti-choice hypocrisy and inspiring a new model of activism. Currently, Liz grew up in Minneapolis in a conservative Catholic family, the youngest of 5 children, and currently lives in Brooklyn, New York, while continuing to tour the country doing stand-up in support of abortion rights, much like we will hear from here today. And then a little bit of information about her organization, Abortion Access Front, or probably better, Abortion AF. Abortion AF was founded in 2015, like I said, under the name Lady Parts Justice League. But AAF is a team of comedians, writers, and producers that use humor to destigmatize abortion and expose the extremist anti-choice forces working to destroy access to reproductive rights in all 50 states. They do the job, in their words, they do the job that the media doesn't, creating provocative and hilarious videos and social media content that educate people about the pervasive, discriminatory abortion laws that profoundly and disproportionately impact the poor and people of color. Another crucial part of their mission is to support and raise awareness about independent abortion providers who bear the brunt of anti-abortion legislation and harassment. And so with that, I will stop sharing and turn it over to Liz Winstead, who we're so excited to have here today.
Thank you. And as you're talking, my dog got a toy that is so loud and squeaking. So I'm going to put on my headphones. So maybe that will prevent you from hearing the dog. Hi, yeah. Everyone. I'm so excited to be here at this crazy ass crossroads that we are in. And So excited to be talking with people who do the work we do, celebrating the partners you've listed who we have done so much work with, Med Students for Choice, Middle Access Coalition, RAP, Repro Action, so NAF, so many organizations. And it just feels super exciting to be, I'm very, very grateful and thankful that I started this organization before we were in crisis so that we could help folks really understand where we need to go. Because right now we're in a moment where I think we all feel incredibly terrified. I think we all feel immobilized, and I think we all feel overwhelmed and at capacity. But we also have to remember that we have each other. And so it's time to really think about how we're going to have our backs, and try to use each other's strength and energy and skills and brilliance to reinvent how we are going to ensure people have access, ensure that the states where access is going to go away, that the folks who are still there and wanting to provide aftercare and wanting to do things are getting the support they need, that the states that are going to have an influx of patients are getting the support they need, and that we're supporting everybody who's trying to get people the care they need, right? Right now, it's so crucial because, just we're waiting. We're all sitting in this wait of waiting for the ghoulish six, as I call these Supreme Court justices, because just waiting for them to see what level of autonomy they're going to strip from us, which feels really weird. And it feels really weird that we fought really hard to have an election where we would no longer have a president who was hell-bent on destroying reproductive rights, and getting a president that has been silent, doesn't say the word abortion, and is more concerned with how Brett Kavanaugh's doing when his neighbors went to Michael's and got some Sharpies and some tag board to protest, more than he cares about the hellscape and the violence that has happened to our colleagues in our communities. And so it all feels like tentative. I feel very tentative, but I also feel, really like I have zero fucks to give. And I bet everybody here is like, yeah. And so I will do everything in my power. And if having a uterus is akin to committing a crime, and helping people with uterus is criming, I'm happy to co-conspire on all things, and Abortion Access Front is happy to conspire on things. And when we started the organization back in 2015, how I got into this whole crazy life is I myself got pregnant the first time I ever had sex in high school in 1978, and it was in the battle days of like home pregnancy tests weren't even a thing really. And so, and like, I hadn't been to a gyno. I was brought up Catholic. I was like, I literally said to myself, this isn't just such teen thinking and Catholic shaming. If I have sex and use birth control, I'll be committing 2 sins. So if I just commit 1 sin, then maybe God will only frown down up here a little bit. And why would I pick the sin of birth control? So I decided to just raw dog it, got pregnant, hockey player boyfriend, mullet, the whole bit, all the compassion of a hockey player with a mullet. When he literally said to me, weren't you on something? I was like, I was on you. I thought gravity would be helpful. So when I told him I was pregnant, he was like, you're on your own. You're on your own. I actually think he said, you're on your own, bitch. And so I didn't know what to do. And I saw an ad on a bus for a fake clinic. And at the time, you know, there was a big sign that said free pregnancy tests, choices, options. And it was by my house. It was very convenient. And so I took the bus there. There was no cell phones. So I took the bus there and, you know, I waited in this I was like a house that had some medical literature around, but also had like, you know, those Christian praying hands that are on the placard that were like, you know, like to help you, can't. And finally somebody came out to talk to me in a lab coat, and I thought it was a doctor, and I was very relieved. And then, you know, it didn't occur to me till later that, you know, they wear lab coats at the Clinique counter also at the mall. And so this person wasn't a doctor. And so when I did the pregnancy test there and she came back and she told me it was positive, I didn't even understand the difference between positive and negative. I thought positive for me, good. And then she said, no, you're going to be a mom. Not you're pregnant, you're going to be a mom. And I remember thinking, I don't want to be that. And I was in an abusive relationship and I didn't know how to get out of it because I was 16. And then I was sort of like, I had sex with this person. And so I felt bonded because of the Catholicism. And the one thing I did know is that if I didn't have an abortion, I was stuck with this person forever. And I just knew I couldn't do that. But this person never asked me about my life, right? She just pulled out a book of those horrible, giant, blown up pictures of fetuses that are, I don't even know where they get those pictures. And I remember when I asked about abortion, because I didn't know she was going to be against abortion. And I remember her saying to me, abortion's against our law. And those words were very choice because it wasn't against the law. She said against our law, but I heard the law. So then I thought I was asking her to commit a crime. And I just got so confused. And so I just wanted to get out of there because she was making me feel really panicky and scary. And I remember when I left, I said, I just have to think. And she said, take all the time you need. But remember, Liz, your options are mommy or murder. And I remember walking out of there being so freaked out. And I ended up getting back on the bus, seeing another ad for another place that said the word abortion on it. And I was like, is this going to be another situation? But I have to go someplace. And so I went there, and it was in Minnesota, and it was called the Midwest Health Center for Women. And it was a clinic, it was an independent clinic. And Dr. Mildred Hansen was the doctor. Many of you who have been around the block know Dr. Hansen. And when I got there, the vibe was different because they asked me questions that could have led me to say, maybe I don't want an abortion. You know, they were like, what do you want to do with your life? Do you feel like you're in a position? Is the person, I think they said father, is the father, you know, somebody that you want to spend the rest of your life with? And I just kept thinking, no, no, no. And so I had my abortion. And as everyone will tell you who's had an abortion, like the relief I felt was so profound. And the guilt about the relief I felt was so profound that it took me a while to really recognize that how different my life would have been. Once the panic was over and I had my abortion, and it took 5 minutes, and I danced in the state dance line competition the next day, and we came in third, by the way. I got to go on with my life for a long time. And I had 2 subsequent abortions after that. And the great ending to this story and the beginning of the advocacy is that clinic, Amy Hagstrom Miller from Whole Woman's Health bought that clinic. It became a Whole Woman's Health, and I'm now on the board of that clinic. And it's really an incredible story to know that I can actually make change at the place that changed my life forever, and that I got to, develop this bond and have that happen. But it's just one layer of privilege. And one of the things where my life kind of changed forever in the advocacy, where I just got steeped in, was when all those laws started dropping in between 2010 and 2012. And I was finishing my book, and I was in Minnesota, and I had my 2 dogs, and we were hearing about Texas and Wendy Davis and these laws, and it was appalling. And then as I read and dug, and I had to do a lot of research, it wasn't on the news. Wendy Davis was on the news, but the 26 other states that had the same kind of laws dropping weren't on the news. Those states didn't have a Wendy Davis. And so I was panicked, and I wanted to do something. And so I started calling up clinics because I had to get back to Brooklyn. So I rented a van with my dogs. I started calling up clinics, and I was like, I'm driving across country with my dogs in a van, and I want to help out your clinics. And then they were like, yeah, you sound like you need some help. And I was like, no, you can, I'm kind of legit. You can check me out. But my whole goal was I wanted to do small fundraisers that young people could go to and that people could afford to go to, not just like chicken dinner things, but like events where we could have conversations. And I wanted to visit the clinics. And my first sort of aha moment was I started out doing 7 clinics to get across country, just to give you an idea. And then I ended up doing almost like 47 benefits, and I raised about $18 million for Planned Parenthoods and indie clinics. But when I would go visit the clinics, every clinic said the same thing to me. They said, in sort of shocked face, which made me sad, like, why are you here? Like, no one comes here. Like, people get their procedures and they leave. And it's really nice that you came, because no one ever thanks us. We walk through a throng of protesters to our jobs, and then we provide care for people, and then they go home, and then we walk through a throng of people telling us that we're terrible, rinse, repeat. And so when I got back to New York, I just gathered creative friends I knew and people I love who were working in the business. And I was like, y'all, like, we need to help sustain these providers, and we need to elevate in the communities what they're doing. And also there's really cool activists in these towns who also need to grow their bases. So I want to make videos that expose the hypocrisy and the bullshit and these White Walkers that are just out there being terrible. But also I want to kind of be a USO for the clinics. And so in 2015, we started doing these massive tours. And our tours consist of doing a comedy music show in a town, Little Rock, Oklahoma City, what have you. And then creating sort of an entire environment. So people had tables set up at our shows, and it wasn't just performers and then you went to the tables. We also then had conversations with the providers and the activists, so that our audience, because we would bring the audience in through the comedy and the music, and then the audiences could hear from the providers and the activists what was at stake in their state, where they needed help, where they were really having a problem just like accessing things. And then we would grow these bases, and then people would sign up right in the room. And the retention rate has been really cool. But one of the things that we learned very quickly is if you provide in, sometimes Memphis or Little Rock or Oklahoma City or, Montgomery, Alabama, and you need a lawn care service, like, people won't come and mow your lawn because you provide care. And so, or you can't get your fence fixed, or your plumbing goes out. You need plumbing. You need your roof fixed. You need a paint job. So we were going in and doing these works projects for folks. With our team, we would plan in advance, but then we would present to our audience the dilemma. And so I'll never forget being in Oklahoma City. And this guy held his hand up the whole time I was talking. He was very patient. And I said, "What would you like to say?" And he said, "What I'm hearing you say is that I can be an activist by having my lawn care company mow the lawn of this clinic twice a week, and they pay me, and I'm an activist." And I said, "Yes, you parking your van outside of that clinic and making sure that your client has a beautiful lawn tells the community that you value them in the community, that you value the space and you want it to look beautiful, and that you'll stand up for them." And that's huge. But like, it's like the stigma around abortion, like we talk about it in our inner circles and we talk about it amongst ourselves, but it's there so profoundly that just talking about abortion publicly is a huge deal. Just having conversations and not using euphemisms. It's like, we need to protect the right to have a reproductive choosing choice procedure, healthcare process. You're like, can you just say abortion, please? Like, if we can't say it, we can't defend it, right? And so at Abortion Access Front, it's like super critical that we are always centering abortion. And as Dr. Walls pointed out, we were called Lady Parts Justice League when we launched. The reason we chose that name was because my very first stop on my initial tour was in Michigan. And there was a Michigan state senator named Lisa Brown who was fighting one of these transvaginal ultrasound bills. And she was on the floor of the House. And the right-wing speaker of the House said, "You cannot say vagina or vaginal." And she's like, "I'm fighting a transvaginal ultrasound bill. I have to say it. Transvaginal ultrasound, vagina, vagina, vagina." And he said to her, "You need to use a phrase that is more palatable, like lady parts." And so we called our organization Lady Parts Justice, and then realized that it wasn't inclusive. It didn't speak with our values. People felt like they weren't part of the conversation. We also wanted to center abortion show. So we changed our name, and we're really proud of that. And just also, it's sort of provocative to be Abortion AF. It brings up a lot in the conversation. But I think one of the coolest things that we've discovered in our work, and what has just kept us energized, is in traveling around the country and we've been to 45 states, in traveling around the country and creating these relationships in these towns. One of the things that we discovered were the anti-abortion extremists that were outside of these clinics, the escort teams and the funding teams, got to know who these people were and knew them by name, and they were showing up a lot. And what we learned is that sometimes in communities, maybe some folks in Alabama thought their locals were locals, but really they were like anti-abortion tourist people, right? And so we started collecting the names and the data, and then started working with NAF of all of the anti-abortion extremists and the local people in all of the cities that we were going to. And now AAF has the largest anti-abortion extremist database in our movement. And we are creating this system that we're going to be giving everyone access to in a matter of months, where clinics can pull reports on the extremists that have been protesting them. We often catch live streams immediately. We have started a lot of secret Facebook accounts and joined their churches and followed them. And one of the things that I'm most proud of in our work is because of this gathering of all of this data, we started watching the rumblings of anti-abortion extremists who were going to go to the Capitol on January 6th. And so we had people at the ready to pull video off of Facebook pages. And when January 6th happened, we identified 30 anti-abortion extremists who were at the Capitol on the day and reported them to the FBI. And so that feels really, really great. And so we've been able to really tell the story. I wrote an op-ed with Renee Gracie Sherman about the intersections of the March for Life and anti-abortion extremism, because sometimes we look at the fringes of these organizations, Operation Rescue Knee, Operation Save America, but now they're all intertwined, and they're getting people elected. And so we are staying on top of that as well. But in the course of all of this, we have an incredible little coalition called the Scrappy Coalition, made up of some providers, funds, practical support funds, activists on the ground. And if you would like to join it, it's a great community of people who have been helping each other have their backs. You know, if a practical support fund is in need of trying to find a translator, or can someone travel with somebody from A to Z because they've never been on a plane before and English is not their first language. You know, we're able to help facilitate things in other ways. We're able to just have conversations with each other. If somebody's trying to do a fundraiser in their town and they don't have the capacity to design a graphic, you know, we're there to help these communities. So in this time, as we're all looking at where we want to go and what we want to do, the fact that you are all in this medical community holding up these folks doing this work and bridging these intersections is incredible. The fact that you are folks who are considering abortion provision and really uplifting, you know, the Ryan Project and RAP and like all these really great people. You know, I just want folks to know that we have your backs and we're thinking of you. And when it feels really heavy and it feels really hard, might be a good idea to join our collective so that we can, because clinics are reaching out to us all the time saying, can you just arrange like some wine to come to the clinic? Can you just arrange for lunch to come? Can you arrange for us to go for a happy hour? And we do it for escort teams, and we do it for support funds. And we want to do it for anybody who's feeling like, I don't know how to deal with this burden, because it is a burden that we're all feeling right now, especially for folks who are going to be losing their jobs, you know. And I want everyone to feel that they're always going to be in community, because that's the reason I do this work, because I'm inspired every single day by having access to all of you and having access to all these people. It gets me up and makes me feel so proud. It makes me feel so motivated. And, you know, humor is a funny thing. It can bring a lot of joy. And also I get to say shit for you that you can't say. When you have to be like the respectability people, fuck that shit. I don't have to be. And you can voyeuristically follow all of our work so that you can just be like, thank you for saying that. Say more of that, please. Secretly send us messages. Let us know what you need, because I think it's crucial. I think that there's a great unknown, that when that unknown's revealed to us in the form of this Supreme Court decision, the fallout from that unknown is unknown, you know? And so being present, being in community, knowing that people are organizing stuff, I'm really excited, because one of the things that we have been planning for the past year is we're kicking it off. It's called Operation Save Abortion, and it kicks off on July 17th. And it's a new program that we are launching, and we're having people gather for house parties all around the country. And we're bringing in activists, people, practitioners of abortion, advocates, people who do lobbying, RJ organizations. We're bringing everybody to New York, and we're going to be doing a day of really beautiful sessions that are like, you know, they're going to kind of look like an Oprah set rather than what you're looking at now. So that people can, it's an immersion day in all of the ways that you can volunteer to help abortion access in some way. You'll learn about escorting, you'll learn about practical support, you'll learn about working the phones, you'll learn about funding, you'll learn about all of it. So you can take the information in, and then when you decide where it feels right for you as the person at the house party, we're going to vet every single person. We're teaming up with DDF and creating this vetting tool. And then we're going to help onboard new volunteers in their local communities so that folks can be not burdened if you're a small organization, but we're getting people involved so that as we move forward, people will always have a space to check in with. We're going to have an active living calendar so that people will know where there's national events. They'll learn about Plan C. They'll learn about medication abortion. They'll learn about self-managed abortion. They'll learn about if there's a city council meeting in their town and they need to go and stand up and represent, like anything that needs to get done, there'll be a living calendar that they'll be notified about, just so folks will know what to do, because our movement, more than any other, has just been siloed off, you know, and the media doesn't talk about really what's happening until there's a crisis. It's the only time, you know, and there's a crisis and they talk about it, and a crisis and they talk about it. And it's the institutional funding just isn't there. You know, when COVID happened, we all know our money got cut, you know, so we're all relying on the same pot of money, which also feels a little bit weird and sort of scary. And instead, we just need to all be working together. And I just feel right now, in working with the organizations we've been working with, that we have each other's backs more than ever, and that any way we can support the vulnerable providers, the providers who are going to be having excess of patients, the funds who are going to be on overload. We want to just build these strong supportive networks, and we're doing it. And the more that you are hooked in to community, the more that you can be vulnerable with your feelings and have people really giving you amazing, uplifting information, and while also giving you permission to have your feelings and be really sitting in that, to also know that people are working on ways forward and people are thinking of you all the time. And so with that, I hope that gave you a little bit of hope in thinking that people are doing great work and people are thinking positively and forward, while also being very realistic. So I don't know if people have questions or if you guys want to come back on and we can just blab for a couple minutes, but.
No, that was incredible. I have to say, I've been texting with a couple people who are also watching, and the biggest thing I've heard so far is everyone loves how just sort of candidly and in an approachable way you talk about, you know, having abortions personally. And I think that's a big part of the issue, is just being able to talk about it in a way of like, you know, oh, I went and got my blood pressure checked. Like, it's really different.
Well, and you know, it's like, I think that, you know, there's an arc of, you know, your relationship to your own abortion, you know, like, and I am somebody who feels very comfortable talking about my own abortions. You know, there's people who have struggles along the ways in various reasons. You know, not everything is dire, and not everything is my relationship to abortion. But I always like to say, when people ask me, you know, there are no good abortions, there are no bad abortions, there's just the abortion someone needs, and we just need to honor that.
I like that quote a lot. I think that actually kind of lends to a question I had sort of on a personal note that I don't know is the best formed question, but when I'm talking to patients and I'm going into emergency medicine, so I don't know how many I've seen that were, pregnancies that they wanted terminated, and how many, but I've seen, countless miscarriages and trying to manage those. And my experience has been that, pregnancy and abortion is just very, in general, for most women, is very emotionally charged. And so I'm curious how, as a physician, I can approach it in a way that's more candid and, using humor, because I use humor for most other diseases and people I'm treating. How as a physician do I integrate that with my patients from your perspective?
Well, I think the first thing is take the clue from the patient. Let the patient guide you with where they're at. And I also think too, like, reminding every patient that if they're experiencing miscarriage, whether it's a wanted pregnancy or not, that their pregnancy is not who they are. And this didn't happen to them because they were bad. It didn't happen to them for any reason other than this pregnancy at this time was not a pregnancy that was meant to be. And you're here to facilitate that, to get them healthy, to make their next decisions about pregnancy. And that's why you're there. You get to facilitate and be kind. I'll never forget, I did a fundraiser at a Planned Parenthood in upstate New York, and the physician said to me, one of the things we don't talk about enough with abortion care is oftentimes when the patient gets to me, it's the first time anyone has been kind to them in their journey. And that is something that I think when we think about, where we're at, and it's a burden, but it's also a gift that y'all get to give, is you get to bring kindness to somebody at a time when who knows how much judgment has been heaped upon people in the course of their, or, why they're miscarrying. There could be judgment there, why they decided to have an abortion, judgment there. You get to be the person that helps someone do a reset. If even in that moment, you get to be somebody who is just honoring them and what they're going through. And that's pretty cool.
I like that a lot. Yeah.
Liz, thanks, Michael, for your questions. And this is just so good. And thank you so much, Liz, for being here. We have.
Oh, I'm so happy.
This is the light that we've needed. This is the humor that we need. And I know that this isn't really like your routine. It's not like you're.
No,
it's not like you're doing
not.
a routine. And yet we've all been laughing in the background here.
I mean, that's good. I mean, I'm one of those people who can insert kind of, humor within. I mean, when I go in hard, I go in hard, like you'll all have to come to my show at some point and listen to the podcast, because it's really informative and helpful and like really hits those bad guys hard. So it's a very nice catharsis.
Yeah. Well, absolutely. And we'll definitely share out some of that information.
Yeah.
About how, there actually is a question in the Facebook chat. It's a short question, so I think we could interpret it in a number of ways, but the question from a student is, all right, how do I join? How do I get involved? And for me, when I that question, there's something else behind that question that I'm really curious about your thoughts on, which is how do we utilize humor and good-naturedness and our claims to joy and to the right to laugh and to the right to have an enjoyable life and to live richly. Why is that not a winning message?
I know.
Why is it that our side is the fun side, right?
Always best music, the best food,
yes,
the comedians, the best movies, the best sex. We're fucking, we're like living, like we are having all the fun. I do not understand. And I also think too, it's like, even in the advocacy piece, right? Like these anti-abortion creeps, they're very, like, they really hate that the narrative is shifting out of this shame space. And so one of the things that we do is we go protest at their national events, like they do at clinics, like we go at their churches and we hit them hard. And this leader of Operation Save America said, I want to debate you. And I said, first of all, I refuse to legitimize you because you're bullshit. Second of all, we do not have a baseline of morality. There's a guy over here who literally bombed a clinic who you're hanging out with. So no, you don't get to debate me. And then he said to me, we all do things in the past that we regret. And I said, I've had some shitty bangs in my day. I don't blow up people's places of business. Get the fuck away from me. And they don't even know what to do because they don't even allow women in their circles to do that. So how to get involved? Here's the key for me. I really, really, really want people to get their friends together for Operation Save Abortion and save that date on July 17th. And if you can't do it on that day, all of the videos will be up. But for me, there is an imperative to watch every single one of these sessions and to really evaluate each one of who you are and what your own capacities are, because this is a long haul situation. And so you're going to be incorporating it into your life in a way that you never have before. So that's why I just want people to immerse themselves in it. You can always also write Max at Abortion Access Front. It's Max at aafront.org, sorry, is our programs director. And you can email Max at any time and say, Max, I have 10 minutes a month I can give, and Max will have you doing something for 10 minutes, because we're getting inundated with all of the orgs who will just pop us a note to say, oh my God, we need a thing. We need a thing. Can you get us a thing? So we're really a clearinghouse for people who need immediately and long-term. So we can always help do that. And we're always vetting. And so it's a safe person and it's a doing person. So like, you know, we're here to provide any way we can for all the folks who need. And if you're an advocacy org or any of the orgs that are on this call or that you listed on the slides and you haven't reached out to us, please do. We'll find ways all the time through our networks to help.
That's awesome. Thanks, Liz. Thank you for that. How do we, and I think this is something for Michael and us to talk about long term, but medicine is also an extremely shame-based practice. A culture, I should say. It's a culture of practice that is really rooted in shame and shaming as a mode of controlling people in a culture of domination, in what we call in what we call practices of care. How have you seen humor sort of turn shame on its head? Because we have a lot of conversations with med students, and there is, and you brought this up right away right at the top, but how can med students and how can future physicians sort of engage in humor and irony and satire within a profession that is obsessed with respectability politics?
Right. Well, I often say, if you're not feeding me, fucking me, or paying me, your opinion is at the bottom of the barrel. So that is one thing. Like, you know, look, and also there was a great quote from someone that says, you can't harm me because I've seen what you believe in. And so like, so much of that is, if somebody is in this respectability cloak, why was it put there in the first place? Probably white supremacy, patriarchy, all those things, right? What you're supposed to be. And I honestly think what's such an unfortunate place about medicine now is the lack of opportunity to spend with a patient, to get to hear them long enough so that you can give them what they need, if that's what they need. And so I don't know how we get back there, but also people can't shame you without your permission. And always remember that, is that if someone's bringing some shit into your world, you're making a difference they don't like by you changing a ball game that's existed for a long time, or B, they don't understand it, so it must be wrong. And so your approach to medicine and approach to your patients, if it's coming from this holistic place of your values, like, understand that completely, and they won't be able to carve in ways that are just bringing their bullshit establishment, cement shoes in and wrecking everything. But it's like, and I know that it's in medicine, it's so much harder because you do just have this structures that are just there and that are in place, and a hierarchy that just seems so baked into the deal. And I don't know the answer to that, but I do know that the small amount of humanity that you can bring in the time you are given with your patients, when you bring it, it's like you spent hours with someone simply by bringing that bit of humanity. It's really incredible. And I think that the interaction can sometimes be so short that you feel like it's not making a difference, but it's huge. It's huge.
Yeah, I think that's one of those things that as medical students we tend to underestimate. But I think also to your point of like just spending extra time, I think that's really where medical students shine, because we don't have the obligations yet of a full-fledged physician. So I've spent an hour on the phone with a patient because I was like, well, I don't have anything else to do. The physician's off seeing other people. So yeah, I think that's where I think medical students can really find their voice in this healthcare system. And I think especially around abortion, that's an opportunity as somebody comes into the ED to sit down and just chat with them about what their options are.
Yeah.
So I love also that you all have all these resources, and I'm definitely going to get involved with the Operation Save Abortion. And if you need help,
be so fun.
Yeah, and if you need help in the New York part, I'm not too far. I'm over in Connecticut, but
excellent. Yeah, and I think too, like, even like thinking about like your opening line with a patient, when you see somebody for the very first time, like maybe like there should just be some brainstorming around like, what is an opening question that can make somebody feel very much at ease, and or just is it a statement, is it a question, is it a thing that can help people really just know that someone will be there, especially with abortion care. It's always just rough, but like kindness in any way is just really helpful.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. So I'm going to direct that a little bit to Jeff, because he's been a doctor for a little bit longer than I have. If you had anything that works, because I feel like I change it a lot trying to find the right one to do exactly that.
You never want to trust my medical advice. I did not. I hightailed it out after med school because of exactly this, the culture of domination that I simply didn't want to subject myself to. And actually, one of the student or the person who had asked that question on how to get involved and how to commented on Facebook as we were talking about how it isn't always just about respectability politics. It's about, as you were talking about, Liz, the hierarchy of power and domination. And students have to navigate a very, very complex landscape of power dynamics that are absolutely tilted against their interests. So we are, even as we use humor, and I think this would be interesting, Liz, to hear you to riff on a little bit. As we use humor, how do we ensure that we're using it in a way where we're punching up and not down, and we're using it with a kind of ethical regard for, the risks that come with using humor? It's a weapon, and it can.
Yeah, and it's that's the thing about humor, and it's always the scariest thing is, I always say, the punching up piece is, does the person have agency? If they don't punch at them. That's like kind of like the thing, but you just can't with humor. It's so tricky because you could walk into a room and look exactly like somebody's ex-husband or the person that harmed them. And so and you just don't know. And so you just don't know what someone's triggers are. You just don't know anything. And so, it's always hard to initiate humor with a patient. I think initiating compassion and is a first, and then somebody will allow oftentimes when they're scared, because I think a lot of times you're just scared when you're in the hospital or seeing the doctor, and their humor will manifest that way. And you can always, even if somebody cracks like a joke and it's from Seinfeld, or it's like a line from something, like acknowledging that commonality you have with them. But it's really, really tricky because you just don't know what somebody brings into the circumstance. And so I would say, my brother-in-law's an orthopedic surgeon, and he always wears a ridiculous tie. And he said that it helps, he does it on purpose. And it's either from his travels or something. And, it's almost like, what is your presentation in yourself, that you can bring? That's because it's also, you can't be political. You have to be neutral. You just are not allowed to bring your full self, but you can bring a universal sort of truth and warmth, I think.
You said it earlier, bring your humanity.
Yeah.
Bring
your humanity.
That's the key to unlock what seems to be the potential for that kind of understanding in a moment where humor could be helpful, it could be useful, but if you haven't first established that you see the person as a person in front of you, and that you are also showing up as a person to them, that seems to be an element that is oftentimes missing.
And I think too, the biggest fear people have is that you're not going to care, that you're not going to care about them. I think they doubt less. I think they think you'll care for them, but I think people want that level of, do you care about me? Do you care that I'm here? And if they feel that, I think that's a huge help. And then they'll open the path for you. And then how you can show up in your humanity. Yeah.
So as much as I would love to just keep going. We're getting a little bit towards the end and I don't want to take up too much of your time. So I'm gonna do a little bit of closing remarks.
Yes, tell people about the programs because I didn't get to the programs.
Yes. So let me share my screen again. If I can figure it out, which is always a struggle. Yeah, so our biggest project, and this is super important because our applications are due tomorrow, is for our Summer Institute for Abortion Justice in Medical Education and Student Activism. This is an amazing project that Jeff and Aaliyah and some of the other people over at AMSA have been working on. This is an opportunity for medical students and pre-medical students to connect with policymakers, abortion providers themselves, other medical students, and really learn about how abortion overlaps with medical education, how it overlaps with a person's mental health and well-being, how environmental factors and socioeconomic factors will impact health, learn how to advocate for your patients. And so if you're interested in signing up for this, go to amsa.org/RHP and sign up. There is also a opportunity to apply to be one of AMSA's interns for the Reproductive Health Project and create a toolkit and get a stipend for $500, which medical students always could use $500. So I would highly encourage everyone to check it out and apply to be one of our interns and get the stipend, but hopefully more importantly, get to a better understanding of abortion and providing, as Liz talked so extensively about, of showing your humanity to your patients. And so definitely sign up for that. And then we also have our reproductive health scholars programs, which are coming up. So we have career pathways and family planning leadership program. We have the reproductive justice leadership program, medical ethics and reproductive health leadership program, the just general reproductive health scholars program. And those are all running in fall of 2022. So those are starting in the next couple of months. And they're really excellent programs. I did one of the scholars programs at AMSA. At this point, that was a while ago before I got too involved with National AMSA, but they're really excellent programs. There are some also not directly related to reproductive health. If you have other interested in just straight advocacy, if you're interested in transgender health, sexual health, we have lots of scholars programs to sort of help fill in the gaps of medical education. And I would really encourage everyone to check out all of our scholars programs, again, at amsa.org/RHP to learn more, or you can always reach out to me at pres@amsa.org. That's PRES. And I will be happy to answer any emails you have or any questions. And then I just wanted to end with the collage and celebration of Abortion Provider Appreciation Day. This was done through our Reproductive Health Project. One of our amazing national leaders, Marcella, she is currently our Global Health Action Committee chair, and she put this together as part of the Reproductive Health Project and honestly did an amazing job. So if you're interested in understanding more about how you can use art and expressing what abortion means to you, also go to the same website, which I'm not going to repeat because I've said it enough. But I think aside from that, it was so great to have you, Liz. It was a pleasure to meet you and hear from you and hear
Oh, it's great to talk with you, and thank you for having me, and you know, good luck in these times, and just know that there's people that have your backs and we want to know where you are. And so Abortion Access Front is always a home for you to come and participate, hang your hat, express your feelings. We're here.
Love it. And I might have to go get, I think I saw you had Abortion AF t-shirts. I might have to
go. Oh, we do. They're really good.
All right. So with that, thank you again so much, Liz. And
thank you.
We will see you all next time, or hopefully at our Reproductive Health Institute. Again, application is due tomorrow, so don't delay. Go do it right now.